Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Today we're going to be tackling the lower ball joints on the Tacoma. It's at about 104,000 miles right now, which means that they're due to be replaced. You're supposed to be replacing these every 100,000 miles. It's a pretty important item. You definitely don't want to be caught out on the trail or even on the highway with a blown lower ball joint, because I've seen some pictures and it does some pretty serious damage. But I've already done the passenger side, and that was the first time ever, and I have to say it was actually quite easy. Pretty minimal tools needed to complete this, so we're going to go ahead and do the driver's side now, and I'm going to walk you through the steps and the tools needed to complete that. The process should be the same for all the years of first gen, maybe a little variance, and maybe even some forerunners, but don't quote me on that. You'll have to do some research on that, but why don't we go ahead and get into it. Alright, so first things first, you'll want a new lower ball joint. This is factory Toyota parts, genuine. You only want to buy genuine Toyota parts when it comes to lower ball joints because the quality is much higher, so don't mess around with any other brands on that. The kit comes with, or I guess the assembly comes with a new castle nut and cotter pin for it as well. Since we're taking the tie rod off in that castle nut, you'll want to buy a new cotter pin for that one. So just get a couple of those. You only need two, but good idea to have a few laying around. You'll need, or I recommend you buy 4 new bolts too that hold on the lower ball joint. It's just good practice to replace those. And now for tools, you'll want like a Pitman arm puller for getting the lower ball joint off of the knuckle. This makes it a lot easier. You can use the hammer method, that works as well, but this does save you a little bit of time. You'll need a 22mm socket, a 14mm socket, and a 24mm socket. This is a ball joint polar separator. I haven't used this yet actually, so I might use it on the driver's side here, but this will be for the tie rod mainly because this doesn't fit where the tie rod is at. You'll want a big, nice heavy hammer that you can fit in there. This will get the tie rod out. I used it on the passenger side. So if this doesn't work, this definitely will work. You'll want some red Loctite. I have an impact gun. This will save you a lot of time, but it's not needed. You can use a breaker bar and a ratchet to get this done. And lastly, you'll need a torque wrench that goes up to 103 foot-pounds. So that's pretty much it. Oh, and you can see the passenger side one here. Pretty good shape, no play or anything like that, but just better to be on the safe side and get it replaced, so let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is jack up the truck and get a jack stand underneath it so we can get the wheel off. If you don't have an impact gun, it's going to be easier to break your lug nuts loose first with the truck on the ground so the wheel doesn't spin. So you can go ahead and get those a little bit loose before you jack the truck up. Truck is now jacked up, so we'll get this wheel off of here. Good Lord. Now that the wheel's off, the next thing to do will be removing the tie rod here. So got to remove this cotter pin up on the top here. Come on, almost there. There we go. Alright, and then the next thing we're going to do is remove the castle nut here on top of the tie rod. And that is a 22mm socket as well. There we go. Shouldn't be too hard to get off. We'll leave this on here just a little bit Now we'll go ahead and see if that tool works actually. So I'm only going to use this tool if it doesn't damage the boot in any way. That's my only problem. And it actually looks like it might not even be big enough, so might not even get that far. It isn't. We're going to use the hammer method. So for the hammer method on the tie rod, you're just going to want to whack it right here on basically this kind of knuckle portion of the lower ball joint. You don't want to hit anywhere on the tie rod, and you certainly don't want to hit from the top on the threads. So just good whacks right there. And it's going to take a couple good smacks as well. There it is. So now you can see loose. We'll undo the nut and drop the tie rod out of there. Move it out of the way. So now we have kind of free range here on the knuckle, I guess that's what you call it, hub. So now we'll get working on the next parts. The next portion to work on is the 4 bolts that are on both sides of the ball joint here. This is your 14mm socket, and we're going to go ahead and loosen these out. Now we'll move to the 2 on the other side. It's the same thing. Alright, you can see now that the hub and everything is free from the knuckle. So now we're going to tackle the castle nut here on the lower ball joint. This one's also going to have a cotter pin just like the tie rod, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. There we go. And now the socket for the bottom of the ball joint is going to be a 24. Oh, we might need actually to use the breaker bar on this one. If you have a shallow impact socket, you can obviously get away with using your impact gun, but I do not. That wasn't that hard at all. Now we'll slot on the Pitman arm puller here. Right like that. We'll thread it up. Now let's go ahead and tighten this. There that came. Alright. So it is free, obviously, as you saw. Now we'll go ahead and move the knuckle here and pop out our old ball joint. Just like that. So now that's free and out. So I went ahead and just cleaned up the ball joint there, got all the gunk off of it, or not the ball joint, sorry, the lower control arm. You can see the old one here. It was still in good shape, no play, so that's good. You definitely want to be changing them before there's play. So mine have these little dust like protection boots on them. I understand that some don't, but you'll save these and slip it right over the new one. And then just line up the holes, so there'll be 2 tabs and it'll line up with 2 of the holes on it. And now this baby's ready to get installed. So we're now going to basically reverse the steps that we took to remove the old one. On the new one, you'll notice that there are these little portions that stick up that will help align it in the holes, so you want to make sure you get those correctly in the knuckle. Now we'll take the new castle nut from the assembly, stick that baby on there. Now 103 foot-pounds on this is the magic number. There we go, 103 foot-pounds. And now you'll see that there'll be a hole for the cotter pin somewhere, and you'll want to then basically torque the castle nut just to get it in line. You don't want to loosen the castle nut to line up the hole. You always want to tighten it to line up the hole. Alright, perfect. So now we'll take the new cotter pin, slip it in there. And now bend it out. The lower ball joint is in, so now we're going to go ahead and work on getting it connected to the knuckle hub, whatever you want to call it here. And that's where we'll use those 4 new bolts. Alright, so now we're going to put on the 4 little bolts that hold on the lower ball joint to the knuckle. You're going to want to red thread lock these bolts as well. Super important that you do that. Now we're just going to try and basically line this up and get at least one started. Might take some finagling to do. So I ended up getting one of the ones on the other side started. It was a little bit easier. You want to get one started and then leave it loose so you can kind of maneuver around the other ones. And bear in mind those little raised portions I showed you, make sure those get lined up as well. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and torque these down now that we have them in. And these are 37 foot-pounds, pound-feet, however you want to say it. Snug them all up first. And it doesn't hurt to, before snugging them up, just visually inspect, make sure everything's seated right and looks good. Now that they are snug, we'll go ahead and torque it. There's that one. There's that one. Now after you torque them all down, just do another loop around to make sure that they're all torqued still. Alright, so home stretch. Now we're going to go ahead and put the tie rod back in here to the lower control arm. We're going to go ahead and reuse the old castle nut. I didn't buy new ones of these. I thought I did, but did not. Whoops. Put this baby on there. So then this tie rod nut here gets torqued to 67 foot-pounds. Okay, there's that. And then same thing here. You're just going to torque it a little bit past to get the hole lined up for the cotter pin. There we go. This is where the new cotter pin comes in handy. Slip that through there. We'll go ahead and bend it up. That's all there is to it. Now we'll go ahead and put on the wheel. This portion is done. All right, now we're just going to torque these babies down to about 85, 83 foot-pounds, and we're done. All right, so that's it. The job is done. Honestly, not that difficult. Don't let it scare you. It's a relatively easy job. In fact, this is before work, and I gotta wrap this up and go shower and start the day. I think this took me a little bit over an hour, which is about 30 to 40 minutes faster than the passenger side, which is my first time doing this ever. So again, not super difficult. I hope this video was at least helpful for you if you've been looking at doing this yourself, and maybe demystified some things and gave you the courage to attempt it yourself as well. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to follow me on my Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description for that. You can catch a sneak peek of things that I'm working on, as well as trips that I am taking and such. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and subscribe for sure. There'll be more videos to come. But until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video.